Wow. Matt, that looks fun. Let's talk a little bit about the cocktail before we get started here. Let's learn a little bit about you and kind of how you got started in the bar business. What got you going?
Well, actually, I fell into it about 6 years ago. I just really needed a job. My first night, I remember somebody asked for a Cosmopolitan, and I had to duck down and say to them, "What's in a Cosmo?"
What's a Cosmo?
So that was kind of my first thing 6 years ago. And the only thing I started doing was taking what was on the existing menu, because I knew the drinks weren't worth $15, and I just started replacing them with fresh stuff. I mean, I'm half Greek, half Italian. I grew up on the East Coast. I would go every Sunday with my father to the farmer's market there in Lexington. So that was more my background. My grandparents grew everything in their garden. So I knew the difference between something being fresh in food and not.
Well, let's start off with the first drink. What do we have here?
But I want you to try something first, though, okay? Before you try that, I kind of love to do like a amuse-bouches with people where I start and end something. So this is just a black, because it's in season, this is just a Black Mission fig-infused Basil Hayden's, high pectin, very, very thick, but beautiful, okay? I just want you to get a little sip of that going. And it's a Basil Hayden's bourbon with the Black Mission figs. Wow. This is a drink that I really love to give everybody. It really is my signature drink. It is the drink that I feel like I'm most proud of. It's the one I love to make the most. And it's called the Last Tango in Modena. Okay. And it's got Caprock gin, which is an artisanal gin from Colorado that's made from lavender and apples. It's got a 25-year-old balsamic blend. It's got organic strawberries. And it has a pine cone, wild pine cone infused Saint Germain foam on top.
So some interesting flavors there you've got in that. The gin almost feels like it's not even there.
You should be able to get those tingles.
It's just a hint of it. Why, when you build a craft cocktail like this, I mean, what are some of the things that you think about in terms of developing a cocktail?
There's four things I always think about. I think about the name, because if I tell you that, that evokes something. Then I think about how it's going to look. Then I think about how it smells, and then I think about how it tastes. And each one of those phases should improve upon the next.
Okay, Matt, so here we are on drink number 2. Looks like we went right into the garden, picked out some fresh vegetables, made it into a creative cocktail, and voila.
What I used is green zebra heirloom tomatoes, which is my favorite tomato, because if someone says they don't like tomatoes, I give them that because it's very high in fruit flavors. And this year, because of the intense heat, best season I've seen in 6 years for the tomatoes.
Great.
So basically, I muddled those. I muddled this incredible bergamot mint. Okay, that I think it's a wild water mint that I found in the Malibu mountains. Okay. And then put some lime in there, some agave, and then I have this beautiful. This is an organic tequila. This the 1, 2, 3. 2 is the reposado.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's infused with Blenheim apricots that were only in season 3 weeks out of the year. I got them in June. I infused them. And now you get to enjoy that. And then I have just some beautiful cherry tomatoes on top of that. Let me give it a quick little stir for you.
Okay. Oh, fresh. That's great.
Yeah. That bergamot, you don't know, but you can taste that apricot at the end. And you don't always get that. Like when you were talking about not tasting the gin, it's another note when you can do that. It's beautiful.
Completely different profiles too when you go into the vegetable base especially around spirits. I mean, it really brings out kind of a tone to a cocktail. It gives it a little bit more body,
Absolutely.
which is kind of cool. There you go. Awesome.
So this has grapefruit mint infused art in the aged sage, another artisanal spirit, with ant beer, grapes, and sage. And that's chamomile oil on top.
I was going to say,
I made from scratch with fresh chamomile, grapeseed oil, and so forth.
Now, what is the? I feel like there's a little bit of a hint of spice in there.
Spice.
What am I
feel
pulling
like
out?
it's the sharpness from the grapefruit mint. That's what I feel like.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is what you just touched upon is a great thing, because there's ways of doing spice without heat and ginger.
Right, right.
And the way you do that is intensifying certain herbs into spirits.
So break this drink down.
So I'll break it down. So like I said, I've got a grapefruit mint that's from my garden. It's super aromatic, super grapefruity. I infuse that into a liqueur called Art in the Age Sage, which is an artisanal spirit that is made in the same way a vodka or gin would be, with all of these incredible herbs. It's actually made in downtown LA, which is awesome. And then I have a wild ant beer. So one of the things that I learned is I learned from a master wild forager how to find these plants. And one of the things he started to teach me was how to make my own beer Native American style. When I say Native American style, no hops or grain. So water, yeast, molasses, and herbs. Now, he was going to forage for ants. I couldn't make it, but I commissioned him to make me 24 bottles of ant beer. So I want you to try it on its own.
Okay.
What's so amazing about this is the lemon, the ants give off a very lemony and almost like it's a sour beer. And you'll never taste a beer like that. It's in its own category.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
So it's got a, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's all, that flavor that you get, ants. So that basically, that has that in that with this, some Concord grapes, and which is just in season, and a little bit of sage.
Beautiful.
And what I put on top is I took fresh chamomile. So chamomile is one of the few herbs that you don't have to blanch first and then add oil and then Vitamix. Chamomile, you just do the chamomile right away with the grapeseed oil, let it sit and strain it, and then you have chamomile. So if you want to try it on its own, then you really just taste the chamomile.
Put that on my lips.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
Yeah, that feels.
So that's what's going on.
That's amazing. Look at pop-up bars and pop-up cocktail concepts like what you're doing here at Cliff's Edge. I mean, what was the inspiration behind a pop-up?
There's two elements.
All right.
What I mean by that is all omakase, all my stuff. If I was integrated with the restaurant and having to do wine and food and that, it doesn't work. What I do doesn't work in that circumstance. It only works independently. And now I have a staff.
Yeah.
So what's happening now is these craft cocktails I can actually put out. You know, we're doing 150 cocktails a night in 5 hours.
Wow.
Just cocktails. No food, no wine. And it's because I have a staff and I'm more of the chef and the expert. I'm not even behind the bar barely. That's what you're gonna see is I'm in your position calling out cocktails that I've created that night or things that I've fed them or these paints, and I'm going around and bringing this experience to everybody in the table. And that's what you don't get. There's only a limited amount of seats at the table. So I extend that. So I'm almost trying to bring the bar to every table.
Wow, okay.
Because not everybody can sit here. This is tomato sorbet with marjoram with wild ant beer made from ants.
Somewhere up there. And they made an heirloom tomato margarita, which was one of the greatest things I've ever had.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do that with apricot tequila, lovage from my garden, and tomatoes. Let's just do that.
All right, that would be awesome. Man, I don't even know what to do.
What do you like? You can't get the same thing, and you can't say I'll have whatever.
What does that mean? What is ant beer?
It means that you take ants that you found on the ground and you make a beer Native American style, which is taking the ants, molasses, water, and yeast and let it ferment for a month.
The idea of like something that sort of captures the vibe of like a good, great gin and tonic, but not.
I know exactly what Okay, I got that and I got you, okay? How is that? Good. Whenever you're ready, I need an apricot, tomato, and lovage drink. I just keep creating and feeding these bartenders these things on a daily basis and making all this stuff, and I do believe that's the future. If I didn't, here's the deal, if I had a pop-up, let's say it's just me, Matthew Biancaniello is popping up here. how many drinks would I really be able
Right.
to do
Yeah.
by myself? How many drinks would I really? How many people would I want to talk to?
Yeah.
That experience is lost.
Yeah.
And to make it unique, you've got to keep that experience going, and you have to keep the quality high.
Beautiful.
I do want to end you with my
All right, let's do it.
Bergamoncello. Okay, this is the high proof
Bergamoncello, okay.
that I infused with bergamot peels, and then guess what? 2 months in, I put grapefruit blossoms in.
Ah,
so
nice.
instead of orange flower water,
process.
grapefruit blossom. So
Process.
super aromatic, super bitter, super beautiful. Just a little sip to get started.
Wow, that's bizarre. That is crazy
But
weird.
see, this is what's great. I'm glad you said that because
Crazy
there's another
weird.
reason.
This is
Someone might love that on its own. Maybe someone like you does because you love spirited stuff, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just making normal cellos,
Yeah.
normal cellos are great. Don't get me wrong. You got, lemon, you got tangerine, whatever. But you can't, once you try to mix something like that, lost. All of a sudden now I make a bergamoncello, and if you can drink a little sip on its own, which is what it's intended for.
Yep.
But now I can mix this.
Yep,
I
yep.
can put it in a punch. I can put it in a cocktail, and
Yeah, I'm
now
loving
it
that.
adds more versatility to it. So I've made something that has versatility,
Yeah.
and that's what I love.
Great baseline.
Yeah.
Matt, it's been great hanging with you here today on your pre-pop-up. And
Free
learning-
pop-up to my last night of the 10-week pop-up.
Yeah, absolutely. So this has been fun. Thanks
Thank
for
you
stopping
so
in on
much.
this episode of Across the Bar.